Little intro. So David and I have both been working with A Course in Miracles since the mid 70s and pretty much spend all of our time now just teaching the course primarily and nothing else, and loving it, loving what we do. And I thought what we're going to do, each of us are going to take 5 or 10 minutes to just talk about kind of where we are in relationship to the course and its effect upon us, and our perspective on at this particular point. And then we're just going to dialogue for the rest of the time. You can either put observations in chat, which the Bud will then tell us about and we can talk about, or after we're done with our own little part here, you can come on by just raising your hand. If you know how to raise your electronic hand, preferably that way, because that's easy for us to see. If you don't know how to do that, you can actually raise your physical hand, although that sometimes is a little harder for us to catch. So Dave, you want to start off talking about where you are in relationship to this marvelous book that we've been studying here for a good while.
Okay, thank you all for being here, for joining in, and I thank John for inviting me to this wonderful session of sharing. Uh, just as he's inviting me on, I realized that, uh, I have this thought. I heard Ken Wapnick way back around 1981 saying, everything happens perfectly. And I said, well, if everything happens perfectly, maybe I was born on the very day of the lesson I was born to teach. And I was born on leap year, May 12th, 1940, which happens to be the 133rd day of the year. So lesson 133 would be the lesson I was born to teach. And, Jesus very, very rarely ever says, this is a very practical lesson. In the very first paragraph, he says, this is a very practical lesson for you. And I found it's probably a guiding light for me, and it really allows me to see everything else kind of exactly the way it is. And it says, I will not value what is valueless. What's valuable belongs to me. And then he gives you two criteria that tells you what has no value whatsoever. And I find if you know these two, you can kind of smile and laugh at everything else. So the first is if something begins in time and ends in time, it has no value for you, the Holy Son of God who lives in the eternal now. If it begins in time and ends in time, what do you need it for? And that's so helpful. Of course, what belongs to me is what belongs to all equally. Equally, that's a very important word in the way I see
Mm.
things, in the way I teach, in the way I I see people as really. I'm always speaking to myself about myself. There's never a time I'm seeing somebody outside of me that's different from me. I'm not saying that I don't see that, but I don't act on it. I just don't act on it. It doesn't really mean anything unless I think it means something, which is my ego. And that probably also looks at the lessons that I think are two of the best lessons in the course, which is lesson one and lesson two. To me, lesson one and lesson two is the whole course. Nothing I see here means anything, but just in case you think it means something, go on to lesson two. I'm the one who gives all the meaning to it. So you can actually see how we make it all up. We just make it all up, which he tells you in 100 other places. I'm not a victim of this world. I invented this world. So, by the way, the second criteria is I call the first one time, and the second one is space. The second one says, if you think that someone has something that you don't have that's valuable and you don't have it, whatever it is has no value to you, the Son of God. And of course, the vice versa is true. If I think I have something or know something that others don't have, whatever it is, it's valueless because what's valuable belongs to all. The love of God sees all the same, equal. It's that word equal again. And all are given all. Now you might say, well, what do you mean? Well, there's only one. That's right. We all have the same That's what's real. That's what's valuable. And I just thought that that's where I would start. I think the other thing that kind of comes up for me at this point is notice that everything happens for you. And he tells you that in so many places in the course. My favorite is, I mentioned here earlier, lesson 135, paragraph 18. He says, what can you not accept? If you but knew that everything that seems to happen, all events, past, present, and even to come, is gently planned for you by one whose only purpose is your good. So people say, well, what do you mean? This thing that just happened to me, that wasn't for my good. Of course, that's the ego. In chapter 4, section 5, he says, all things happen for the good, except in the judgment of the ego. Uh, so one of the things that you really get out of all of this is acceptance. What can you not accept? That kind of also reminds me of that lesson 268, which literally says, let all things be exactly as they are, because you are watching a movie. And if you think you can change a movie, you are forgetting that you're watching the movie. You're not the person in the movie. So those are some of the things that I kind of feel is valuable just to open the session up.
Okay, Dave. Well, great. Thank you, bro. Well, I think the thing that I've been thinking about most lately, because I've been writing about it, is the idea of living a lucid life. And what I mean by a lucid life is, as David was just saying, the Course in Miracles is very clear that this whole world is a dream. Now, this is not a new idea. This goes back into ancient Hinduism, and it's throughout history. Throughout, Buddha has an awakening. What's he awakening from? He's awakening from a dream. Plato's story of the cave. Shakespeare is saying, all the world's a stage, That theme of our sleeping, G.I. Gurdjieff, who was a philosopher from the early part of the 19th century, or early 20th century, I should have said, late 19th, early 20th, said everybody's sleepwalking, and you don't even know that you're sleepwalking through this life. So this theme of the importance of being awake or waking up, recognizing what's going, seeing, not just being caught in the dream, not being caught in, if you will, in the illusion. Because as you begin to awaken within the dream, I'm not talking about yet about waking from the dream, I'm waking in the dream. As you begin to awaken in the dream, they call that lucid dreaming, right? Well, I'm just talking about lucid living as a way of living in the world so that you're aware of the dream. And as you're aware of the dream, that then means that you have some more control over it. You can go back to what David was just saying, for example. That means you don't have to take everything so seriously. It's not so awful. It's just a part of the dream that's going on. But then it's your adjustment to the dream that makes all the difference in the world. And so there's a certain process that we all have to go through. If you look at the beginning of the different stages in the development of trust in the Course, and David places a tremendous amount of importance upon the concept of trust in the Course. Let's just look at these. There's 6 stages, and I certainly won't take the time to go through them, but I'll just mention what they are. There are 6. The first 3, which are undoing, sorting out, and relinquishing, are all about letting go. Letting go of something. What are you letting go? You're letting go of an illusion. You're letting go of the illusion, first of all, that you are something special, letting go of the illusions of the ego and the illusions of society, the illusions of the world that keep. And I think it's interesting now that television is just all around all the time, and YouTube and everything is just information is powering in on us. So what are we going to do all that? It's easy to get distracted by it. It's easy to get caught up in the dreaming of the world. Of course, the Miracles talks about it. The dreaming of the world is just another way. We've got our individual dreams, and then we got the universal dream. But let's go back to the 6 stages. So The first three are all about letting go. If you look in the beginning of the course, the principles, the first 50 principles of A Course in Miracles, principle number 7 says, miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. See, people who get really religious often like go into a monastery or they go into meditation, they do something. You've got to do something to begin, if you will, to stop the world, to stop it inside you, to see it. And the Course in Miracles is helping us to do that without actually going off. This is not to say you shouldn't meditate. It's not to say you shouldn't get quiet. I think it's really important to be able to have time when you can kind of step away from the world. I've had twice in my life when I spent longer periods of time in isolation in a hospital with 24 days with COVID in a room, and then another time in 2007, unconscious actually with encephalitis, and gone for, and completely gone for over a week, and then waking up. But say, when you come out of something like being in a coma, it's very different. It's not just like you wake up in the morning. You look at pictures of people waking up from comas. It's kind of like a baby, because what's happening is you just look. I mean, you just everything is kind of new. Everything is kind of different. You're kind of putting it all together. It's not like you don't just wake up with a start. You're kind of checking things out a bit and kind of reintegrating back into this particular world. Well, as A Course in Miracles is, this is not the real world. This is not the real world at all. This is just a world, if you will, that we're kind of visiting. And not only we're visiting, but we're visiting it with a certain series of limitations in form. We got these bodies. We got to work with these bodies, and we got to work with space, and we got to work with the time, the history, the time area that we're born into. So those are the first three stages, are about letting go and waking up, right? Stage number 4 and the development of trust is a good stage. I mean, it's a kind of a rest stage. It's you get a respite, and I see that respite is where I'm headed. By that I mean what I'm trying to help us all to get to and to live in for a while, which is to be able to live in this world without being of it. So we're not being driven crazy by the world. We're not being driven crazy even by our own ideas or our own ambitions or our own angers or our attack thoughts and stuff like that that you don't really need, because after all, you're nobody. I don't mean it. You're nobody, that poem from Dickens said, I'm nobody, who are you? Are you nobody too? It's nothing special. And that's a very important teaching in the Course in Miracles. But that gives you a lot of freedom in terms of the way that you can see things. Now, I mentioned stage 5 and I'll mention stage 6, but without going into them at all. Stage 5 is a very difficult time. And I'm sorry that you get to this nice place and then you go to a difficult place. But that just means that it's the final, like the real big let go. The let go of the illusion that you are a separate person in the world, that the disintegration, the final disintegration. When 4, I think we're still working with the ego, we're still in time, we're still in this world, that's all fine, but you're living in a world in a peaceful way. Eventually, however, there's going to be the big let go, and that is when we all say bye-bye to this world. And actually, well, David and I are now octogenarians, and some of you may be too. And there's this, I checked out this morning for some silly reason on the computer. You can type your age in on the computer. If I am such and such an age and I'm a male or female, what is my life expectancy? And it'll tell you. And on the average, this is what you will come up to, right?
Your results may vary.
Well, yes, on the average, I said, this is the average possibility. So my average is I will make it to 88. But now I'm healthy, so maybe it'll be a little longer than that. But anybody can do that. So, but what I'm getting at is, as the time gets shorter, You start thinking more about what's really meaningful. There's less ambition of some materialistic sense or making a name or something like that. Is what is my purpose? What is my meaning? What do I really want to learn from this whole trip, spiritually speaking? And that's what the important thing. And then finally, stage 6, and after this I'll be quiet, is you get to go home. Finally, you get to go home and be free of the whole thing. But the Course in Miracles is trying to take us on this journey through this world, through this life, and learn how to live here in such a way that it's not painful, that we can enjoy being with other people, that we can enjoy whatever it is that we're doing in the world, that we're not depressed because we don't think that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing with our lives. As a matter of fact, as you are doing, people say, well, what's my purpose? I'll tell you what your purpose is. Your purpose is to wake up. That's the purpose for every human being. And to focusing on that and not some other kind of materialistic purpose that the world would be suggesting, maybe the kind of thing that you would like to be accomplishing in the world. So the Course is just a marvelous, marvelous guide. I don't know anything better. I've looked at a lot. I taught philosophy and religion for 40 years, and I looked into a lot. I still do. I still really enjoy looking at a lot of other different systems of thought. I really enjoy A Course of Love, for example, and others. I still, when something new comes along, I'll take a good look at it. But I keep coming back to the Course because I regard that as a kind of central guide in this whole process. So that's really enough for me. And so we have a whole hour for just dialoguing with you. But Bud, first of all, let's see if there's anything you want to bring out from the chat. And then
Sure, a couple things. First of all, I did drop a summary of the 6 stages of growth in chat. So you can download that. It's just a one-page PDF that is the synopsis of that whole section from the Manual for Teachers. So you might find that helpful. Mervyn asked a question, which is something that we've all dealt with in so many different ways. His question is, what is your guidance regarding the idea that anger is never useful? How does this caveat relate to righteous indignation and in both individual and group instances? And I just want to say one thing before John and Dove jump in on this. And it's not that it's not useful, it's not justified. That's what the Course says. So John, Dove, over to you.
Yeah.
Dove, you want to start saying hi?
Yeah, actually, the word justified is the one that Jesus uses. It doesn't mean that you don't get angry, so you don't hold that against yourself. If you get angry, you get angry, but it's never justified, because if you are looking at anything and you see it's something that you cannot accept, which is where the anger comes from. I can't accept that. It's unacceptable. And that's another word for I'm going to react the way I feel is the right way. Now, the word right is a very big word in the Course of Miracles, as far as I'm concerned. And that line where he says, do you want to be right or happy? Choose one. You can't have both. That's such an important thing, because earlier we were talking about what's valuable. And you might say, well, what is valuable? And, you say, okay, the peace of God is valuable. We all have the peace of God. The love of God is valuable. We all have the love of God. But guess what else? Happiness. Happiness isn't that lesson 101 and 102? God's will for me is perfect happiness. So that's something that we all have. I said, no, I don't want to be happy. I want to be right. That's indignation. Yes, I am terribly disappointed in you. I mean, that's all anger is my own disappointment in myself. Period.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me respond to that. First of all, there's two sentences that kind of go with that. One begins one paragraph, one not the next sentence begins the next paragraph. Anger is never justified, and then the exact paragraph below that, the first sentence is attack has no foundation. All right, so attack has no foundation. We don't attack. This doesn't mean, by the way, you might add, that you don't confront, that you don't deal with, that you don't talk about, that you don't bring up things that need to be done. Halloween, okay, we just had Halloween. We have 3 grandchildren. And the 3 grandchildren, after the Halloween, all going around the neighborhood and picking up all this candy and poisoning our children. Well, I won't go into that. That sounds like a judgment. After after that was done, we come back and we're just sitting on our front porch, and my youngest, who's 4 years old, took a candy and he took it out and the wrapper, and he threw the wrapper on the ground and he ate the candy. And instantly, both I and Grandma, my wife, and our daughter, Sarah, said, pick that up. All right. Now, this wasn't really in anger, but we just wanted, you don't do that. You got to learn, you don't throw trash on the ground. You think that you can do that, you don't do that. All right. So there's a lot of other things. We don't kill people, but we don't allow that. This doesn't mean we allow people to do things that they shouldn't do. But the question is, how do we stop insanity without going insane ourselves? Ken Wapnick once said, I thought it was a really great line. He said, one of the most difficult things for a Course in Miracles student to learn is how to be able to disagree with somebody else without it being an attack. That's very important. So how to disagree with somebody else without it being an attack. Now, sometimes they may hear it as an attack, but they're doing. You've got to learn, I've got to learn, we've got to learn how to be able to do the right thing, to do the just thing without going crazy ourselves. That's what the Course is saying. You want to add anything more to that, Doug?
Yes, I just want to point out that Rafi, who's here, who teaches the Sedona method, and Rafi and I teach together. I do the Course in Miracles. He does the Sedona method, and we call it Abbott and Costello taking it out on the road. And yeah, it goes very well. But he just put in the chat, welcome the anger, give it love, and allow it to go. All feelings come up to go. All feelings, and I totally agree with that. What I wanted to add is like lesson number 5. I am never, the key word is never, upset for the reason I think, which was Ken Wapnick's favorite lesson, by the way. It's number 1 lesson for Ken. And recently I was listening to one of his workshops. He says, if you can put your finger on whatever it is that is upsetting you, that's not it. That's not it. Because the ego sees everything outside of it as upsetting you. What's upsetting me is I chose the wrong teacher. I chose the ego as my teacher. This entire course is remembering that you can choose once again. Last section, chapter 31, section 8, choose once again. You can choose Holy Spirit, who is your true self, as your teacher, your true self, the one that God created as your true self. I just want to mention one other thing about getting into lucid living, which John mentioned. Like Tibetan Buddhists, when they meditate, they don't do closed eye and sit in a lotus position. For a Tibetan Buddhist, open eye meditation, wherever they go, they're going for a walk, they're in business, no matter what it is, they are aware. It's that awareness. And Regina came up with the awareness, watching awareness. That is where your mind is still. And whatever happens, you can either smile, laugh at it, or whatever you want to do. But basically, most people who know me say that you got to laugh, because none of this stuff is real. It's exactly what John just said. It's a dream. It's a movie. And of course, that's the way I see this world. I see it as a classroom where you come to learn lessons. And the lessons that you really want to learn, by the way, are the lessons that trigger you.
Yeah.
For those people who know me, I have a card, and on it says, "Be grateful for your triggers. Be grateful for your triggers." That's why you came here, to learn a lesson. Be grateful for your triggers, for they reveal your mistaken beliefs. And of course, Dove spells the word belief with a big Lie, which is how it's spelled in English, a big lie right in the center of belief.
Right.
In this world, the ego has a big belief system, and we think it's true. None of it's true. You got to laugh.
Yeah. Regis, you want to come on and talk about that, and then Nat after that. Come on, you want to come on?
Yeah, John, thanks. And I really had a question as well, but John, your last comments were just so perfectly in alignment to my question.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Good.
in what you were saying about your grandchild and picking up the paper, because my question is like, um, I do find it sometimes frustrating in, of course, in miracle groups, uh, when the conversation is about judgment and acceptance. Uh, it seems like, uh, which the situation that you just explained, you wasn't judging your grandson,
Huh.
and so, uh, and I always say about the weather, if I say it's raining, I'm not judging the weather. I'm just accepting it. I accept that it's raining, so I get an umbrella, you know.
Exactly.
But when I'm in a lot of course groups, it's just like everything I'm judging. I was judging, and I'm like, I don't think you were necessarily judging, but you do have to address issues, as you said, John. So my question is for you, and would you just give us or give me a clear a definition of what the course is talking about when it says judgment, and what the course is talking about when it says acceptance, because I hear so many confusing dialogues around these two words. Thank you.
All right. So there is, I might add, a correct judgment. There could be a correct judgment. Judgment doesn't necessarily mean wrong. The correct judgment bit is I love you. And that's a very correct judgment to be made. We have to be kind of recognizing that's that side. The course also talks about judgment as a learning device or as a tool that we can use in this world. But the question is being able to make the right kind of judgment, and not that automatically the kind of judgment that we normally think of as going to be a judgment against something. Normally we think of it as a negative, because very often it is a negative. But you just think about where it's going. The correct judgment isn't negative. God makes judgments, but it's not judgment of a God's judgment is also, you're my beloved child, come home. You know, it's always the correct judgment. Okay. Nanette, you want to come on?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, John and for being here, and everybody. Really appreciate this today. I just found it in my email, so I'm grateful to be here. And I just want to just extend my heart to your heart and allowing me to be here. As Dove was sharing about anger, I just was led to go into my tool bag here of ACIM books, and I pulled out Helen's book, not knowing that's what I was pulling out. And I just opened it, and if it would be okay, I opened it to where it says anger is done. And I
Oh,
was wondering if I might read that.
sure. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Anger is done. Forever there will be no more attack. No one will cry in pain. No one will grieve, nor thorns be placed again around the holy head of God's own Son, safe in the stillness of reality, where time has disappeared and space has gone. Open your eyes, you holy Son of God. You came to look on this. Anger is done. And I just that was just so beautiful. And I was thinking of the difference between judgment and discernment.
Mhm.
Just
Right.
discernment is a sacred ground. So thank you for letting me share.
Oh, sure. Thank you for joining us today. Glad to have you here.
We've got another question here. Could
Okay.
you, and this is a fun one, John. Could you
Okay.
please explain the consistencies you see with the shared stories of people who have had near-death experiences and the teachings of A Course in Miracles?
Wow. Well, that's wonderful. I mean, by the way, if you haven't done so yourselves, spend some time on YouTube, flipping through the hundreds and hundreds of near-death experience reports that are there now. It's just YouTube has brought us so much. I'm just amazing that if you want to find a topic, and especially in philosophy and religion and all these kind of things that interest so much, they're there. The most universal experience that I see is it's a description of going home. That's a really wonderful thing. It's a recognition that this world, as A Course in Miracles says, is a school. It's just a part of a process. It's not eternal in any way. Your body is certainly not eternal in any way. The body is something we're all going to lose for sure. But there's one thing you cannot lose. I actually had this little experience when I had COVID back in 2021, uh, thinking that I was going to die, or it looked like it was, about 3/4 of the way through. One night I heard, go or stay, either way, you will not lose your mind. Okay, well, that's kind of, that's the one thing you can't lose. The one thing that is eternal, the one part about you is this point of awareness. So that's still there. All the other stuff we can let go of. That can dissipate. And whatever you learn in this life, hopefully that was very, very helpful. Hopefully you can, and by the way, one of the other things that you see, that nobody really wants to come back. They all want to come back. Well, I don't know about you, but and if I have to come back, I'll come back. But I really see this world as a school, and it'd be kind of nice to graduate. I mean, it'd be kind of nice to have to not repeat because this physicality, this physical thing, this is a kind of prison in and of itself. We're kind of trapped within. You can't get beyond this. It seems like you can't, right? Not as long as you've got it, right? So it's freedom, it's liberation, it's nothing to be afraid of. That's for really sure. And I wrote in the piece that I sent out to Sunday with Mundy piece this morning, and many a soldier dying on a battlefield has prayed for death. Come get me. Take me home. Get me out of this hell. Get me out of this pain. And then thank God you are out of the hell. You are out of the pain. You not have to be trapped within that limitation in form, which is what the body is. So, but it depends so much upon how we are learning and whether or not we're so hooked into the world and into the material dimension of things and to our personalities and to who we think we are, that becomes difficult for us to let go of. Because as I said earlier, it sounded like I was joking. I wasn't entirely joking when I said you're nobody, because I'm nobody too. What I mean by that is there won't be a John Mundy in the heaven of eternity. That's just a name. That's just a body. That's just a temporal identity. It's just so there are no doctors there because what do you need doctors for? There's no body there. I mean, there are no lawyers. What do you need? There's no legislation. I mean, what do you need policemen for? There's no policing. All that kind of stuff, all those kind of definitions that we bring into this world have their limitations within the context of this world. So everywhere, I think we see it as liberation. So back to Dove and then to Lynn.
Yeah, I just want to add a little to that. I had a qualified near-death experience. It was definitely an out-of-the-body experience. I was 40 years old. It's back in 1980, and I knew I wasn't going to be invited to enter the Kabbalah because no one was inviting me. And at 40, you're supposed to be invited. So
Oh,
I came across Rajneesh was one of my early teachers, and he has a book called The Book of Secrets. And I think there's two books, but I had the first Book of Secrets, and in it, it actually says how to open up your third eye. So I said, well, listen, if I'm not going to be invited to the Kabbalah to study mystical whatever, I'm going to open my third eye, and and there's a warning in there: do not do it unless you have removed all your self-destructive thoughts. And Smarty Pants Dove, I said, well, he even says. Hippocrates was given the secret in Egypt, but he waited 30 years until he went back to Greece to actually do it. So I did it, and I can tell you that I had a headache that nothing could ever stop this headache. I mean, you can take any Excedrin, anything. It was really a bad headache. I'm lying there in bed next to Suzanne, lived on 81st in New York in those days, and I feel electrical jolt starting at the crown of my head and starts to pour right through my body. And at first I said, oh, this is how it feels to be in the electric chair. Because we all heard about the Rosenbergs and how, they got the electric chair at Sing Sing. And then my other graphic was, as this was happening, was I saw a visual of Washington Square Park where there's a lot of chess tables. And then all of a sudden, one of the chess tables became a very small square, like where the rook is on your chessboard, to a much larger chessboard that went off into infinity. The next thing I knew, I was at the top of the room looking down, very keyword, peacefully. Look, I saw my body there. I didn't say, oh my God, nothing. The key word is peace. It was in peace. And I looked around. That's all I was doing, just looking like a newborn babe, you might say, just taking it all in. And then the next thing that changed things is Suzanne, who was lying right next to me, said, did you put a quarter in the meter? Because the car was parked on first. And if you look at the symbolism of a meter, you're buying time. The instant she said that, I was back in the body, the headache was gone. And that's my near-death experience. So thanks all for letting me share it.
wonderful. Thank you, Doug. Let's go to Lynn. Hey, Lynn.
Yes.
Dawn, Dove, Bud, mighty companions, thank you. Thank you for this. I have a little poem that I wrote in 2022. I feel it's appropriate.
Okay, let's hear it.
Trust. I call it trust. No more need to second guess. I am here. It is okay. In your dream, you look with me. I am here. It is okay. Allow all terror, any fears. I am here. It is okay. All are echoes of a path long gone. I am here. It is okay. I am you. It is okay.
Beautiful, Lynn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you both. It's wonderful as usual.
Yeah.
And John, you mentioned our function. So I'm reading Nathaniel Brandon. I don't know if you ever read that, and it's very, but anyway, so I was thinking that our function is to be truly helpful. I think you said something else, but to be truly helpful. So if we created kind of ourselves because we were like lonely and we wanted company, so we created ourselves, and then we're supposed to be truly helpful to ourselves. Well, did we make problems for ourselves so we could be truly helpful?
Go ahead, Dave.
I mean, for me, the course is telling you that this is, he uses the word classroom. You can look at it, the word probably appears at least several times, at least. So we come here to learn lessons, and the lessons are basically ones that tell us where our mistaken decisions have been made. That, for instance, I think that I left the mind of God, but our only responsibility in this world, he tells you, your sole responsibility is to accept the atonement for yourself. You have no other responsibility. And the atonement just simply says that what I think happened didn't happen. I mean, that is what we're all here for. It's what John calls awakening. You're awakening from the dream. The dream says it happened. The dream says, I'm separate, I'm a body, I'm alone, I'm going to die.
Right.
No, you never left the mind of God. The Course in Miracles has a simple sentence. It talks about heaven. It says, heaven is an awareness of perfect oneness. That's why we are the One Mind Foundation. It's a oneness. We're not two-ness. I have a book called Into Oneness. I mentioned it to Ken Wapnick, and because Into Oneness sounds like in two-ness, he starts laughing. He said, "Oh, you wrote a book on two-ness?" I said, "No, oneness." So oneness is simply the idea that we are one, and the simplest place in the Course, Chapter 6, Section 2, Paragraph 5, says that's the section called the Holy Spirit's interpretation, or the way he looks at projection. He doesn't see projection like the ego projects what's over here and sees it out there. He sees you as perfect. You're perfect, exactly as God created you, and then includes your brother as perfect also. And then it says this invites atonement automatically. I don't have to do anything for atonement except to see my brother as myself, except to see my brother as myself. In this world, the word comparison, which is another word for judgment, and comparison is really oxygen to the ego. It only lives, ego lives by comparison. It has to see itself and then judging another. Well, he's better than me, he's worse than me, but he's not me. No, we are one. And I don't know if that's helpful to you.
Well, no, but if God created us because he was lonely, that he wanted to share, or he wanted to share his love or company or whatever, then so here we are, right? He created us, or all of us. And now he wants us to be truly helpful to this person, this thing or whatever, this companion he created. But why do we have to be helpful? Like, we must have a problem if we have to be helpful to this thing. So I'm kind of not getting, he was lonely, he needed us, but now we have these problems that we have to solve.
No, no, actually, we have no problems. Lesson 79 and 80 tells you that. Let me recognize what my problems are so they can be solved. And lesson 80 said, let me recognize I have no problems. The body and the ego certainly has problems. And the ego loves for us to solve problems. Ego's entire curriculum for us is, if you got a problem, you better solve it or you're going to have more problems. So life becomes solving problems. Now, I'll use the metaphor that Ken Wapnick uses. He says, your problem is not that you're sitting in a sandbox and someone's kicking sand in your face and you have to decide whether I'm going to kick sand back or run away, which is fight or flight. That's not your problem. Your problem is that you think you're sitting in a sandbox and there is no sandbox.
Okay.
The problem is that we created a problem in thinking that we can be separate from God. You can't be separate from God. That's what the atonement is. It's coming back, waking up to the remembrance of who you really are in truth. You never left home. You can't leave God. That's what Jesus does. Jesus comes to this incredible, I think it happens in the wilderness wandering story of Jesus. He goes off. If you know this, the sequence of events, he's baptized by John the Baptist through Jordan. The next line in the Bible, it says, after that, he was led by the Spirit into the wilderness for a time of testing. All right, so he's led in there. He goes through this long period looking at, there's no devil there. He looks at the ego. And he fortunately resists the whole thing. He says, get thee behind me, Satan, get thee behind me, ego. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy this separation idea at all. And he comes back and he begins after that, he comes back and begins to teach, saying, I and the Father are one. Now, that's the same for you and me. You are, I am, we are all a part of one unitary consciousness, which we call the Father or God. We're a part of that love. Only the ego, which doesn't exist, but it looks like it does, could think of itself as being separate. There is no separation, which is pretty much what Doug was just saying too, in different words. Yeah. Okay, good. Rafi and then Marilyn.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to speak a little bit more about the body thing. The dream is a dream, but like Lester Levinson used to say, yes, it's a dream, but it's perfect. Everything here is serving us perfectly. Everything is happening for us. So your body, even though it doesn't exist and it isn't what I am, is still serving, and it's making a contribution. And as soon as the contribution has been completed, that's when you, quote, die. I mean, I saw it in my son, I saw it in my wife, I saw it in my parents. As soon as their contribution was completed, and it took my mom almost 103 years to complete her contribution, then you leave the body. But Jesus proved, like what Lester said, but we're infinite. If you want to come back, come back. And that's what he did. So after he died on the cross, he decided, wait a minute, I got a few more things I got to say. and he came back into a body so he could hang around for what, 30 or 40 more days, so he could handle a few more issues. And then he decided that's enough. And we can all do that. But so this whole thing about this projected mental image of a body that we are not, everything is here. Doug said it earlier. Dove said it earlier. Everything is here, is working for us. There's nothing here that's happening to us. It happens for us. So the body makes its contribution and it's, okay, I've done what I have to do. Bye now.
Yeah.
But since we're infinite, if you needed to come back, he was not the only one that did that. No. Jesus was not the only one that did that. He proved conclusively that since we are infinite beings, we can do anything that needs to be done to serve what needs to be served. And the thing that needs to be served is the only purpose we have, which is waking up. Thank you.
Thank you. It's going along with what the Course says about there's a plan behind appearances that does not change. It's the same idea that you're talking about, Robbie. All right. Well, let's go to Jim and come back to Marilyn. Okay, Jim. Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
But anyway, I just want to go back to what Dove said about heaven is awareness of perfect oneness. And kind of the opposite of that is here in the illusion, we are unaware that we are in imperfect two-ness. And going and kind of tagging on that to what Loretto said about if we are here to be to only be truly helpful to another, we are attracted because of the the chaos we create in this illusory world. We are attracted to creating order. So that's our helpfulness is to minimize or mitigate the chaos.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
That's my take on it.
I think we're in agreement with you. Okay, let's go to Russ.
Okay, sure. It was actually following up on the I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent He who sent me. I need not worry what to say or do because He who sent me will direct me. And that does sound as though it's actually kind of unusual in that it seems to be telling us what to do in a physical reality of space and time. And I'm just wondering, is there another way you could see that metaphorically that would mean something very different?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's one of the most famous things at ACIM Gather, which is led here by Lynn Johnson, who has her hand up. We invite everyone to become a teacher. And people like Lisa Natoli and Regina came here 20 years ago, and they became teachers of many other teachers. That's the one line that people say, well, what happens if I come to the microphone? I don't know what to say. I say, well, look at the italics on page 28. I'm here only to be truly helpful. But that entire thing is really your willingness to step back, step aside, and let Holy Spirit step forward. Now, you find that in lesson 155. The name of that lesson is Let Me Step Back and Let Spirit Step Forward. Let Him step forward.
Lead the way.
Yeah, let Him lead the way. Thank you. So your willingness to take your place among the teachers doesn't mean you have to teach anything. It's your willingness to start listening to Spirit. I hope that's helpful.
Lynn?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Wow, what fun this is. Yeah, so I just wanted to address this I'm here only to be truly helpful thought. And actually, we're on Saturday mornings at ACIM Gather. Bruce Rawls and I are reading Absence from Felicity. Which is the story of the scribing of A Course in Miracles, written by Ken Wapnick. And it's all about Bill and Helen as they went through the whole scribing business. And we have just read this section where Bill was supposed to go and give a talk at a university, I believe. And he was very nervous about it. And so Jesus gave to Helen this prayer, and later on it was put into the special principles of miracle workers in chapter 2. But this prayer, he gave it to her to give to Bill specifically so that in that situation where, and it says right here in the text, it says, you can do much on behalf of your own healing and that of others if in a situation calling for help, you think of it in this way. I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. I just repeated that because I wanted to say the prayer. But this was in response to a need for something to help him through this situation. And of course, we use it all the time because it really we have the same need. Whenever we're speaking, whenever we're experiencing conversations or going out into the world, dealing with our brothers, we have to remember, I'm here in this situation, in this place, to be helpful. Now, that's not my only purpose, because that is really my purpose cannot possibly be to be helpful because no one needs help. What we are is whole and holy, and the sons of God with no needs, no lack, nothing to worry about or fear. So it couldn't possibly be my purpose to be helpful because that would imply, there's a lack here. So my purpose is really to be what I am, the Holy Son of God that God created. And in order to do that, I have to recognize that we are the Holy Son of God. that we are all the Holy Son of God. There's not one exception. And I'm just going to throw this out here, and I'm not going to go any further, but I'm looking at the election event that's going to be happening in America in a few days. And I'm really looking at remembering that we are all the one Holy Son of God, and there is nothing that can harm us. There is nothing that can change us. There is nothing that can take us from our true purpose, to remember our oneness. And just remembering that, I'm ready for I'm anticipating excitedly the shift in vision. And it doesn't matter who wins,
Right.
because it's the mind that is the winner or loser in this situation. So anyway, thank you for letting me share. And I wasn't really planning on saying that stuff, but just a truly helpful prayer. Anyway, thanks, guys. I love you.
Thank you. We love you too, hon. Beverly? You there? Can you come on screen? Okay, good. Hi.
I'm part of what's on my mind has been addressed a lot this morning, but I'm just going to zero in further, because this is one of my strongest struggles with myself, is I don't really know how to help without overdoing it on my end and then resenting it. And that's not at all what I want. And that's not all correct. And I don't want to stop helping, but I don't know how to help the right way, where I don't get, drained. And then I get, why don't they just, respect my boundaries? Well, I don't even know what my boundaries are. I can't respect them if I don't even know what they are.
Yeah, I like to take that if I can.
Yes, please.
Sure.
Yeah, I go through that all the time. People who know my story know that I complain when I have to do something for somebody, and whatever I do is never enough. They always want more. The word more, if you're familiar with the Course of Miracles, chapter 29, section 8, says the Antichrist, which is the name of the section, is more.
Hmm.
In other words, the part of us that is not Christ always lacks and needs more. So discernment, which is a great word, and somebody here brought it up here earlier, and I want to thank them. Discernment says that when I ask, what is this for? Ask of all things of this world, what is it for? That's right out of the Course of Miracles. Ask, what is it for? Now, discernment will tell you, because you're asking spirit. Now, if it's just someone who just wants more and they're never going to be happy with what they have, that will, I'll use the word, piss you off, because it's the ego that's doing it. It's well, but I resent this. The ego is into resentment and I want to get even and all that. Whereas spirit, if a person really asks and that's something that they need, and I can give it and share it and then that's perfect. And you're gonna feel good about it. You're gonna really feel good about sharing what it is that you can give to someone, and it's not draining you. It's you.
Yeah.
And remember, of the four lessons of the three lessons of the Holy Spirit, the first is to have, give all to all. So I'm not holding anything back. I'm really giving what it is that they are asking for. And I just did a lesson today. I teach on Sundays, lesson 126. What I give to myself. You're only giving to yourself. There's no other self out there. There's not two selves. So what I give with joy and happiness, I'm giving to myself. And I hope that's helpful, Beverly.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, let's go to, is Marilyn back? Is she here now?
Yes.
Oh, good.
My question is about abuse that has happened to a family member is hard to just ignore that, oh, this didn't happen, or oh, I'm not angry, or if you could comment on that.
I can. I just put up in the chat just a moment ago about dream roles, which is, I think, one of the most, well, I shouldn't say this, but most people don't talk about dream roles at all. But chapter 29, section 4, I just put in the chat, it's called Dream Roles. And it says, no one can do anything to you except the role that you have assigned to them. Now, that might be foreign to you, but this is part of the Course in Miracles. Now, you know, when I say the world is a classroom and you're here to learn lessons, who do you think your teacher is, by the way? Your teacher really is not Jesus or the Holy Spirit. It's someone in your life who's your savior in Course in Miracles terms. And I'm thinking, for instance, you know, like in the world of the Bible, Judas is seen as a betrayer, you know, traitor, betrayer. And if you look at 1,300 pages of the Course in Miracles, there's only one person's name who's mentioned by Jesus outside of Adam, which is the symbol for all of mankind, and that's Judas. He says, you know, my own apostles at the time did not understand me out of their own fear and guilt, or they could never possibly have heard me say to Judas, who is who is a holy son of God as I am, thou betrayest me with a kiss. Well, my whole life was I did not believe in condemnation or betrayal of any kind. So those are the people that for thousands of years, people vilify Judas, but he didn't do anything. So the people that seem to do things in our life are doing it so that we can actually learn the lesson we came here for. And in Course in Miracles terms, that person is called our savior, not that jerk.
Yeah.
I'm
And
glad you're laughing.
We often, I might add, marry our savior.
Yes.
Or by that I mean it's the person we have to work with the most. You know, that our children. You know, it's the ones that are right there that are immediate, that are our teachers. Right? Let's go to Hildy. Hildy, good.
Okay, good. Well, I have a paper in front of me, and I think I've resonated with everything that has been said. And in fact, when I put my hand up, I guess maybe my comments or my questions changed and were linked and were answered. So I think this is wonderful, this idea. And this is not a question, it's going to be a comment, and I'm doing it right now because
Okay.
I will soon have to leave to my mother's house, who is 95, and she is very well, but my brother is very sick, and he is my youngest. He is her only son and the youngest. So the whole family, I mean, this is sad. Of course it's sad. I have a friend who I found out was abused when she was a child. And so I've just been listening at this dramas and comedies. I have a friend who says that life is like a fiction of great drama. Even, I don't know how the word I could translate it in Spanish. But I just want to say that gratefulness is a medicine. Gratefulness, this is maybe what has not have been said today, and it's a medicine. I was just in Colombia with Course in Miracles Universal, with what's where I met John, and which I met Dove, and maybe many of you that I have come to recognize and appreciate. And gratefulness, being thankful, to Rafi for what he said. The body will make its contribution, and then I can think of my brother, and I can think differently. I can even say it without crying. So that I will stay with their contribution, and I will also stay before I leave. I will be listening with all your contributions. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So as Doug was just saying, we're grateful for that screaming kid or that nagging husband or wife or whatever it is, but in order to, this is where I'm learning. This is my teacher. Helen, you want to come up for us?
Hi.
Hi.
My question is about something that I think I just don't understand properly. And it's about the way A Course in Miracles speaks about illness, sickness. And when I'm thinking of sickness, like lesson 136, sickness is a defense against the truth, and everything that's in here. And there are all sorts of sentences in here that, I don't know, I'm just not getting, because it feels like, and I love what Dove said earlier about everything is working in our benefit. It's working for us. But if you find yourself in a situation where you're dealing with something that's ongoing health-wise, it feels like it's saying you're doing something wrong, or you're not seeing things clearly, or if you really understood the truth about yourself, that wouldn't be there. So I just want to understand it better.
I think Dove should answer that, especially through what he's been through. Go ahead, Dove.
Okay. So he's never talking about the body. He's only talking about the mind.
Okay.
The body is not who you are. So when he says sickness is nothing more than a defense against the truth, which is 136, if we think of ourselves as a body, we're going to be very concerned, worried, afraid, because death is the fabric of all the dreams that we have in this world. Death is the essential theme of all the central theme of the dreams of illusion that he talks about. He uses the word illusion, I think, 900 times. He uses the word dream 900 times. So the body is the central hero of the dream. But God does not create bodies. God creates spirit. So the mind spirit that confuses itself with the body is going to be living in fear. There's no two ways about it. So you go up to lesson 153, it says, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And I would recommend looking at lesson 153, because as long as I defend myself, I got to do this, I got to eat the right thing. No, you're taking care of your body. The ego only wants to take care of the body.
Thank you. This is super helpful. That's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Alice. Hi, Alice.
Hello, everybody. There's been some real gems here today. And I've just had an aha moment when we were talking about being truly helpful. And I just wanted to share that. When we know that we've only got two choices, fear or love, we are being truly helpful to ourselves and the oneness that we were talking about when we choose love. And that is automatically being truly helpful, because that's also choosing the atonement at the same time. That was just my aha moment, and I just wanted to share that. Thank you very much.
You're right. It is choosing the atonement at the same time, of course.
Thank you, Alice.
Joanne?
Well, I almost hate to say this, and I think I've heard the answer several times in here, but I have just been going through fear, just unbelievable. And I know I could make a different choice, and I'm trying to figure out, why am I not doing that? But if somebody could talk about unhook me from that fear and being upset to the stomach and not knowing where to go. Am I watching YouTube too much and too many teachers? What the hell am I doing wrong?
Where do you think the fear is coming from?
Um, you know what? The whole time COVID was around, I wandered around, never wore a mask. I was healthy, healthy, healthy. And about 9 weeks ago, boom, I got sick and I got COVID. And with the COVID, I got AFib.
Yeah.
And since then, I've had something on my chest to count my heartbeats and stuff for 14 days. I've had done a test for that I wore to bed for if I have sleep apnea. And I think could it be that I'm just afraid of dying? I don't know.
Dove, you want to tell about your experience, Dove, that you had with cancer? Can you do that?
Oh,
too?
okay, yeah. As a matter of fact, some of you know Dakini Weil from Australia. She's doing an interview with me this Wednesday on exactly that. I had cancer 12 years ago, I guess 11 years ago in 73. And I had 2 massive doses of chemo that knocked my immune system on for a loop. But after 2, the doctor says, you don't have the cancer anymore. It's through. Now, I'll tell you how I went into it. Marianne Williamson says, love your cancer. I had a next door neighbor from the cancer hospital, I can't think of the name, in New York. And she says, David, you're strong. I want you to fight the cancer.
Oh.
And then I have as it happened, I went out to Colorado, invited by Regina for Awakening Together. I met Dr. Brent Haskell, who John's a very good friend of. And Brent is a medical doctor, and he's sitting at my table for dinner. And I'm saying, Marianne says, love it. My next door neighbor who works for the cancer hospital says, fight it. What do you say? He said, I would love it. Now, how do you love your cancer? Does that mean that you look at your cancer cells, I say, I love you? No.
No.
Loving your cancer, I realized and became understanding means to accept that this is a condition you have. And when you can accept the condition, you're not fighting it. You're not making it wrong. And when you do those things, you contract your body. Now, the head of the cancer hospital at Mount Sinai, where I was treated, the head doctor happened to see a book that I just wrote called Into Oneness. He asked me what that's about. I saw it. I said, "Oh, that's the same as mindfulness." I said, "Really? I didn't even know what mindful was in 73. I just didn't know that." I said, "Well, okay, very good." So your willingness to just stay here in the present and not think about it, because the ego wants you to think about it, it wants you to be afraid. Now, the original answer I had to your question comes from Jesus when Helen said to Jesus, Jesus, take this fear away from me. Can you do that? He says, Helen, don't ask me to take the fear away from you. I can't do that. He says, that would be against the fundamental law of the universe, cause and effect. And you're doing this to yourself. You are the cause. If I took it away, you wouldn't have learned anything. He said, ask instead, what are the conditions that lead to fear? And the conditions that lead to fear is, as Jesus said to Helen, is always a belief in separation. So whenever you see yourself as separate or comparing or judging, that's what leads to fear.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Thank you.
Dave, if you don't mind, also just explain when they got the second diagnosis and what happened with the cancer.
The second diagnosis?
When you got cancer again. And
When? Are you talking about recently?
yeah, recently.
Yeah, now.
Tell me. I should go ahead. Tell me.
I mean, it went away. Didn't it go away?
Oh, you're talking about, okay, the prostate cancer. So yeah, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer 2 years ago, and I did take some medicine for it, and it did literally go for those people who know what a prostate score is. I had like 231, which is off the charts, and it was reduced down to approximately, now it's around 25, 30.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just want to add one thing, Joanne, and that is, and I put this in chat, for me, the most helpful prayer out of all of the course that I've studied endlessly for decades is help me see this differently. Because what happens is we get locked into this egoic channel thinking. There's only one way, and it's if then else. And that's what breaks our brain. What we have to do is ask for divine intervention. Help me see this differently.
Okay. So we're near the end of time. Let's have Rafi and then Lynn, and then we'll close.
Joanne, let me just address your fear, okay? A, it's only a feeling. B, it came up to leave. If you fight with it, or try to escape from it, or try to distract yourself from it, it's only going to stay there and get worse. If you welcome the fear and you love the fear and you put it into either wanting approval, wanting control, or wanting safety and security. And wanting safety and security is fear of dying. We're afraid, we think we're a body, and the body was born, it's going to live for a while, it's going to die. None of that's true. The feeling is only a feeling. People, oh, yeah, it's fear. Oh my God, it's not feeling. Feeling is energy. If we judge it as good or bad, then we're coming from an ego point of view. If we say this is just a feeling, it's not good or bad. I love you, fear. Yes, fear. Yes, fear. I love you, fear. And it's, oh my God, this is a wanting security. And then make the decision. Could I let this go? Yes. Would I let it go? Yes. When would I let it go? Now. There any more left that wants to leave? Could I let that go too? And it's gone. It's just energy. It's not a big deal. The mind makes it into a big deal, and that's why you're driving yourself crazy. It's not a big deal. It's energy trying to get out. Okay? Just welcome it, love it, love it, love it. Yes. Keep saying yes to it and allowing it to go, and it will. Okay? And then you'll be at peace. And then you can deal with whatever you have to do coming from a much clearer point of view. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's very nice. Did Nanette want to make another comment before we close?
Oh, hi. Thank you. Real quickly, and thank you all for being here, mighty companions. I was, that was being all shared, it's non-judgmental awareness, resting in God. Not that long ago, I've had sort of brushed up against the piercing of this reality here, and my appendix burst. But I didn't know. I didn't know what was happening. And I kneeled on the side of the bed, and in that sacred moment, I said, if it's time, thank you. If not, thank you. And I called and I said, Dr. Jesus, do whatever. And I felt a burst. Again, I didn't know what it was. And then all of a sudden the pain left. And I began to go into incredible sweating. An entire month went by, every night sweating profusely. And I kept asking, as it was shared, Bud, what is this for? And I kept hearing purification by holy fire, purification by holy fire. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew something in my soulish realm was being purified, and it was presenting itself through the physical, but not to judge it. A month later, I did go see, I had an x-ray, and I was 1 point away from sepsis. And the surgeon came out and he said, your appendix burst, but it walled itself off. It walled off the infection. I did eventually have it out, but there it was brushing up against what is this here? There is something far greater that I never need to understand. I just need to be surrendered. So thank you all. Love you all.
Thank you. You too. Lynn, you want to come on and then maybe you can read the Lord's Prayer to close with this. And then I want to say just a word before we really, really close. Okay.
What a beautiful, beautiful meeting. I just have one more poem
Okay.
that I wrote in 2022 that I feel is appropriate for now.
Okay.
I call it Lotus. Let us rise from the ashes, mighty companions. What has been burnt can breathe again. An aroma caresses what has been hurt. Grace is here as love remembers. Does caterpillar know his skin is not home? That he will open to colors not imagined.
Wow.
Lotus evolves in muck of insanity. Love embraces all it is.
Beautiful as always, hon.
Thank you.
So there's a passage from what we call the Lord's Prayer from the Course we like to close with. Ask Glenn to read it, but before that, just want to say thank you all for being with us today. We've enjoyed it as well. If you can make a donation to the One Mind Foundation, we really appreciate that. Because, well, just we're a nonprofit corporation, and of course, like everybody else, we have expenses, and we appreciate any help that you can offer us. Len, you want to read this for us, son?
Definitely. The Lord's Prayer from A Course in Miracles. Forgive us our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you, in which there are no illusions and where none can ever enter. Our holiness is yours. What can there be in us that needs forgiveness when yours is perfect? The sleep of forgetfulness is only the unwillingness to remember your forgiveness and your love. Let us not wander into temptation, for the temptation of the Son of God is not your will. And let us receive only what you have given, and accept but this into the minds which you created and which you love. Amen.
Amen. And let's go back into gallery view to close.
Amen.
Wonderful having you all here.